Welcome to Zero Love, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the sports world with the most fascinating people in the game. From athletes to coaches to executives to entrepreneurs, we bring you their stories, their passion, and their grit that defines sports at its core. And today we have none other than Jesse Levine, former professional tennis player who played against the tennis giants, practiced with them, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, played on stadium court against Rafa in Canada, center court Del Potro at Wimbledon, Wimbledon junior champion in doubles. Just an incredible career. Former Florida Gator. It just hurts even when I say it. You know, just discussing his journey on his move from Canada to Florida when he was 13 years old, a difficult age, how to play against these giants in these big pressure-filled moments and how he handled that, and then his coaching career with Madison Keys and Jessica Pagula, and then making the transition to get out of the coaching career and the travel life and spend more time at the club life where the environment is very different. It's not all about winning Wimbledons or U.S. Opens, and it's a different experience, but still a very important tennis experience for people to have. A great conversation, a great story, a great career, great journey. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. One of my best friends, Jesse Levine. I'm JY Obone. Let's get into Zero Love. Welcome to the Zero Love show, man.
I love being part of the Zero Love show. But I've only been watching it online, and now I'm a part of it. This is like very surreal for me.
Well, and then you'll be a part of the parent company with Intense very shortly. Yeah. So that's going to be really cool. So, but we have to get it started off with, man, we're a hockey town.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. 3 years in a row, Panthers in the Stanley Cup final. You know me being from Canada, I'm a big hockey guy, so it's pretty exciting to see that. I've been going to a lot of games. I would consider the Panthers maybe my stepchild team. You know, they're not like they're not my main team. They're not my main team, but one day they could turn into that. I don't know. I'm a diehard Ottawa guy. It's where I'm born and raised, but I got to cheer for the Panthers now. You know, I'm here. I'm going to games. I may even have a jersey. I don't wear it to every game, but I have one.
Well, as long as you're not wearing it in public, walking around town, because that's when it's your favorite team. But who's better fans, Ottawa or Florida Panthers fans?
Well, I mean, look, you're going to get me in trouble on here already. You know, for a first question coming out the gates like that. I will say this: watching the playoffs on TV, Florida fans are great when they're doing well, and you can attest to that. I know you've gone to a lot of Heat games, You've gone to all those Miami sports events, and I went to the last game that they won at home and they scored like 5 goals in the third period. And there was like a good 10 minutes left in the third period and people were starting to leave already. And I was like, They're winning. Is it that important to beat traffic to go home? Like, I don't think the traffic is that bad at a hockey game here in South Florida, but it just goes to show you they're a little bit of fair weather fans. They want to get out of there. They want to get home. They saw their team win and they're out of there.
Oh, 100%. Biggest thing ever. Remember the Miami Heat game with the Spurs, Game 6, where they had to leave that a little too early, and then they tried to get back in. I mean, Miami, I think just big cities in general, when you have so much to do, and it's a problem for big cities.
I will tell you this. Anybody that I know that has played in the NHL, I'm fortunate to know some guys that have played in the NHL, they all love playing in Florida. They love playing here. You know, they can go out, they can go to eat, they can go to restaurants, and no one knows who they are. You know, if you go to a big market team, in Toronto or New York or, anywhere in Canada, like they can't go out to normal dinner with their families and enjoy themselves. Here, you can go out to dinner in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and no one knows who they are. Maybe a couple of the guys, but it's a good place to play. The weather's amazing, and they're amazing. Last 3 years, I mean, Zito, the general manager, has done an incredible job, and it's really fun to watch. They put the right crew together, and they mesh well.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah. So we'll see if the other sports teams can kind of step it up a little bit. But let's take it to your Canadian roots, man. How old were you when you moved to Boca?
I was 13. So I was just finishing middle school, and I was starting high school in Boca. So moved to Florida and started my freshman year of high school in Boca Raton. And everyone thinks that, I moved there because of tennis or, to have this amazing opportunity to play in Florida all along. But it really was for my younger brother, who was really sick as a kid, and doctors in Canada that were saying to us that living in warm weather climate all year round would be much better for his health. And we really took a gamble as a family. My dad had a great job opportunity. Yes, it was a plus for my tennis because I didn't take tennis as serious in Canada as I did when I moved to Florida. It's a different level. But yeah, no, my brother's doing great now. Thank goodness. And it was a really great move for the whole family. And we've been here since 2000. Yeah.
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 And what was that transition like? Because you're older there. I'm sure you had friends, relationships. And then, I mean, I'm sure it like you said, it benefited everybody in the family to come down. But still, to leave that, and, I mean, what was that like? Was that tough leaving it behind, or?
Yeah, I think like you said, the hardest thing was leaving all like family and friends because you grow up and when you're close and all my cousins were living that like down, we all lived in the same neighborhood. I can walk to my grandparents, walk to my cousins, walk to my friends, play pickup hockey on the street after school. I mean, it was just like a lifestyle that I was so used to. It was kind of eye opening moving to Florida and the culture is so different. But I think the one thing that you for sure can agree to this is sports can really make you friends pretty quickly. And I think because of sports and kind of getting into that in high school, I played 4 sports in high school my freshman year. So it was really cool. And that's how I met friends pretty quickly. And I went to the Chris Everett Tennis Academy right away when I was 13. So I would go to school, go across the street to tennis, and then go back across the street for either basketball, soccer, or baseball. So I was playing as many sports as possible until I was 15. And then I was like, okay, like I'm certainly not tall enough for basketball. That's not going to happen. Soccer, it was fun. I'm not good enough. Baseball, I enjoyed. I really did. And, I played a little golf for the high school team too. And you and I have battled out there a couple of times. We had some fun. But
so I didn't know you played golf. That's the cheat code you have. Like, man, I'm like, man, this guy's good. Like, he just picked it up like when he's an adult. Okay, this makes sense. All right, I don't feel so bad.
I went to like golf camp when I was like a kid. So like I got like the basics a little bit here and there. But I really didn't take golf serious until like my last couple of years on tour because when you're traveling around and, looking for things to do in these cities, like for me, it was so fun to find different golf courses. And that was like my off day was to go find a golf course to play and get around it. It was very like settling for me. And I felt like it was just like healthy. And I really enjoyed playing all these courses.
Well, now I know where that perfect, beautiful swing comes from. Okay, I just thought you were.
Let's not go that far, but I'm pretty consistent.
For somebody that didn't play that, like, or somebody that dedicated so much time to tennis, like, you have a great swing, but now it makes sense.
Thanks.
So, what was your first tournament when you played? Because when I met you was clay courts.
Yeah. So,
what was your first tournament?
I mean, the first tournament I ever played in Florida was like a super series. Like it was a really small tournament in the 14 and unders. And I just needed to get a ranking, right? So my dad's American, my mom's Canadian, and it was pretty quickly that I switched over to playing for the US because Tennis Canada at that time said I needed to come home and play a certain amount of tournaments in order to keep playing for Canada. So my dad's like, you should switch over to playing for the States. I mean, you're 13 now and you could play all these tournaments. So hopefully you can play nationals and everything. So I made that decision and I did it. And, it was pretty quickly kind of climbed the rankings in the 14s, the Super Series, to states, to, designateds, and then obviously meeting you at Super Nationals. No one knew who I was at Super Nationals in the 14s that year. They're like, who is this kid? And a lot of parents in Florida actually were kind of upset because I wasn't seeded. Right. And I had just won like state closed 14s on the clay and everything. And they didn't want their kids to get knocked out early on if they were to play me. And yeah, I would say that was kind of like, okay, there was my big tournament that I came out the gates there. It was 14 clay courts at the Jimmy Everett Tennis Center.
Yeah, I thought it was funny how it played out. I'm like, oh, this Canadian coming down to play on clays? No way he's going to make it 3 sets in any of this. And then you win the freaking tournament.
He can't handle the heat.
No, yeah, I was like, I don't mind if I had to play against him. We never actually did play against each other.
Can we talk about that? How many tournaments did we play the same tournament and never played against each other at one time?
Yeah, well, I think we can at least talk about now the time that we almost played against each other. We can talk about it.
Okay, yeah.
So, did you want to share the story?
Well, sure. I mean, look, we grew up, playing junior since we were 13. That was the first tournament we talked about in the clay courts, and we traveled. We won Kalamazoo doubles together, 16s. We played doubles a bunch together, and we always joked about how we never played in juniors or the pros or anything. But when we went to college, you went to college before me. and you ended up going to Florida State, and I feel bad for you, but I ended up going to Florida. And
I was pissed.
and we always kept in touch. And finally, my freshman year when I started, we're playing Florida State, and JY and I are talking like, holy smokes, like we're actually going to play each other. And the first time we're going to play each other is Florida versus Florida State in a dual match. Because we talked behind our coaches' backs a little bit. Like we were like, hey, like you're playing one, right? Like we're going to play against each other. And you were like, yeah.
We didn't give away anybody else's spots.
No. We kept it professional between the two of us, but we get to the match and like the night before, you're like, you sent me a text like, hey, we're not going to play.
Yeah, because I think I played a few matches at number one singles, but I was definitely playing like all number one doubles. So I was like, look, I think we'll at least play each other in doubles. And I think I played 3 doubles that day.
They're stacking. That's such a stack.
I was so pissed. I'm just like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So that was funny.
That was messed up because we didn't end up getting to play each other, and it was in Tallahassee. It was fun. And I ended up playing Itai Abugzir, right? That's who you played one? Yeah, I remember. That's funny. And then you played Greg Ouellet.
Yeah,
that was our number 2.
God, that was heartbreaking. It was my worst matchup ever. So, and then you guys broke our hearts at NCAAs that year. That was a rough night.
I remember. Yeah, it's so funny because a really good friend of mine, Michael Shabazz, who I also played a lot of doubles with, we played one time throughout our whole career, like once. And we always joke about it, but I played a lot of doubles with him. We played a lot of the same tournaments too. It's funny how that works. And then there's guys like Donald Young. I must have played him 20 times. Yeah. It's just funny how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
Yeah, but
how was your time at Florida there? I mean, was it a full year, just the playing semester?
I was there, so I took online classes in the fall, and then I went in the spring to play, and I loved every second of it. If I did it all over again, I would have gone earlier, and I wouldn't have taken the year off after high school. I really wanted to try and play pro and see how it was, but I knew I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready physically. I wasn't ready mentally. I really wanted to experience college, and I wanted to play for a team. And look, like you grew up watching Florida State football. That was like your dream to go there and be part of that. Like for me, I love all sports, and to be part of a team like that, it's something that you can't simulate that anywhere else. Playing for a team and playing for a major university like that. So for me, I would have gone earlier and maybe even stayed a little bit longer. I don't know, but I for sure would have gone earlier and not taken that year off to play as an amateur. And obviously couldn't take the prize money at that time. Now, you get all these deals where you can take a certain amount of prize money. You can take the NIL money. It's a different ball game now.
Yeah, man, you'd be a millionaire if you were playing college tennis right now.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, that's why kids will want to stay in college. Why are you going to go and try and play pro and grind out, futures where you're making $2,000 for winning the whole tournament and trying to cover expenses? And you can go and live the life in these major colleges and get paid, 6 figures to be in college. You're getting paid. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's awesome.
Do you think it's going to hurt them though? Because you can't really skip the grind of the lower levels of professional tennis, and it is going to be a big drop off in just the environment, the travel life, the structure by yourself. I wonder if they're just going to be like, screw this. Why am I doing this?
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to hurt them in where, look, like some of these colleges, they travel on private planes. They travel on these rock star buses. Like you're getting treated like you're a professional athlete at the top level, right? So you go from that to all of a sudden, staying at the Motel 6 in, Birmingham, Alabama, trying to make a grind and make ends meet. Like it's not easy, So some of these guys, I think, will realize that pretty quickly and say, hey, this ain't for me, And then there's some that will enjoy the grind. Like I know guys that, were grinding out there and trying to play for a really long time. And I don't take anything away from that, but if that was me, I always told my friends, slap me in the face, because it's such a hard thing to watch someone going out there week in and week out and just getting beat up like that. Like it's so hard.
Yeah. Well, how did you get treated when you went to go travel to practice with Fed in Dubai?
Well, that was pretty.
How was that experience?
That was a crazy experience. And I'll never forget. I was in study hall in Gainesville, you got to study in Gainesville. I don't know about Tallahassee, but in
Do
Gainesville,
you?
we had, I mean, a little bit, a little bit. I'll tell you a really big secret that not a lot of people know. Okay. I really wanted to go to Duke.
I didn't know that.
I
No.
was ready.
I know you were big on Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois was close. I had a lot of fun on my recruiting trip. Champagne's a fun town. You went there too. You had a lot of fun. We talked about, we almost went there together. I took a recruiting trip there and I was like, man, like, I think I want to go here. Like, this is amazing. Jay Lapidus was the coach at the time. And I was like, this is an amazing place. I went to a basketball game, Duke versus North Carolina. I sat with Coach K in his office. I'm like, where are the papers? Like, I'm ready to sign.
Yeah.
And Jay, he won't like me saying this, but he was like, if you're not planning on coming all 4 years, like, Duke's probably not the right fit for you. And I was like, whoa, like, okay, like, shoot, like, I don't know. I can't guarantee you that I'm going to go all 4 years because I don't know. And then I ended up taking my recruiting trip to Florida, and I felt the same, but like, I'm telling you, if Jay would have handed me the papers there, I would have been a Blue Devil.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy how things kind of like turned like that and ended up being a Gator, and it was amazing, and it's great to be a Florida Gator. I mean, look, we win national championships. When I was there freshman year, we won it in football and basketball. Yeah, it was a good time. Tim Tebow would come out to the tennis matches, and people would they'd look and be like, do like a double take, like, because Tebow would be watching, they'd freak out, and he'd be screaming, cheering for us. It was cool. Yeah.
So you're telling me it's Jay's fault that we lost in the second round at NCAAs to you guys? Because there's no way we lose to you guys if you're not playing.
You can blame Jay all you want. It's fine. I tell him the story all you. I actually told Ramsey Smith, who's the head coach there, the story, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?" He was like, "I would have taken you for a semester."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but
different times. But back to the study hall.
Sorry, I got off topic there. I was at study hall and I got a phone call. I didn't recognize the number. It was from Ohio, and I answered the phone and said hello, and they said, "Jesse, this is so and so from IMG. We want to know if this summer you'd want to come to Dubai and practice with Roger Federer." And I said, yeah, really funny, good joke. Boom, hung up the phone. Pulled a little Ben Shelton, hung up the phone, you know? I was like, who the heck's trying to play? I thought it was one of my teammates, like, playing a prank on me. And 5 minutes later, phone rings again. It's from another number from Ohio. I'm like, what? Is this? So someone's calling me again? This is really so-and-so from IMG. Oh, I am so sorry. I thought it was one of my teammates playing a prank on me. Like, what are the details, you know? And he was like, look, like, he wants someone to come to Dubai and practice for 3 weeks to get ready for the U.S. hardcourt swing. And, you know, he has really good things to say about you. He's heard from IMG, you know, your work ethic, and all the coaches there speak highly of you because that's where I had trained before I went to college. And I was like, okay. And they're like, you could bring someone with you, like bring one of your coaches. And I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't really have much time to think, but like, I'm on the spot. I'm going to say yes, right? So the next day they sent me all the details, and I ended up going with our assistant coach, Jeremy Bayon. And we were on a plane to Dubai, flew from Florida to Atlanta, Dubai, landed in Dubai, had a voice message on my hotel phone already from Roger. I'm like, this is nuts. I had never met him before. Imagine like a 19-year-old kid, like getting to your hotel in Dubai and having a voicemail from Roger Federer, who like is one of your idols, like, hey, Jess, like, it's Roger, like, call me when you get in. I'm like, what is this? Is this like really happening? So yeah, no, we spent 3 weeks there with him. It was probably one of the most incredible experiences. And from that day on, I got invited back. He invited me to go to Turks and Caicos. And I brought my dad. I brought my dad to that trip, which is probably one of the coolest trips I've ever been on. My dad played college tennis at Penn State, and to be able to experience that with him and him be on the court with me and Roger Federer and have lunch with him like every day for 2 weeks. I'll never forget. We got on the plane to fly home, and my dad goes, "Hey Jess, like, I got to tell you something." I'm like, "What's up?" Like, I have no idea what my dad's about to say. He's like, "I don't care how much money I spent on you and all your junior tennis. This trip just made it all worth it." And I was like, all right, cool, Dad. Like, thanks so much for saying that.
I can only imagine what it would be like if like my son had some sort of experience like that. I mean, it's just
yeah, it was crazy.
priceless.
It was crazy. And the thing to me, like, you know, when you see Roger at the tournaments, you've seen him at the tournaments, like, he looks so chill and just kind of going not through the motions, but so relaxed, and doesn't look like these tournaments like he's really, practicing crazy hard, right? Well, I'll tell you, in Dubai, it was a different Roger than what you would think. I mean, look, he trained extremely hard. I got to see pretty much everything that he did on court. Off the court in the gym, didn't really share that with me at the time. He was very private about that, but he couldn't have been any nicer, any more respectful, and just an all-around good guy, him and his whole entire team. And the practice sessions were intense. Were like really intense.
And you guys had, like, he was shuffling you guys in and out, so he had a fresh partner, right?
Yeah. It was, so the first time I went, it was myself and Ricardus Berankis. It was so much fun, man. And we got to play sets, we got to do drills, and everyone thought that like he brought me there because I'm lefty, but he had no idea I was lefty until the first time I took the racket out of the bag, and he's like, "Oh, you're lefty?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, this is perfect." Because then he had Berankis as the righty, he had me as a lefty. So when he was practicing for Rafa, at that time, that was his main rival back in 2007, 2008. Then he was like, "All right, Jess, I need you to bring out that heavy forehand, bring it out," and it was an experience that I'll never forget. And I think, I told this story to a couple of my close friends, and I want to share this because he really did something special when I got there. He handed me an envelope, and it had a lot of cash in it when I got there. Okay. And I was like, this is like a lot of money for me. Like, I'm a college kid, and he's like, "Oh, this is for you to, for expenses, whatever you need, you want to go to dinner, whatever you need." And a lot of times we ate with him, and obviously he took care of everything. And the end of the trip, like, there was a good amount left. And I told my coach, I said, I'm gonna give it back to him, like whatever's left. And he was like, "What?" Like, he gave it to you. Like, he doesn't need it. I was like, "I'm gonna give it back. Like, it's gonna go a long way." And I gave him back the envelope on the last day that we were there. The look on his face, I don't think he saw that coming. The look on Fed's face was so priceless. He invited me back like multiple times, and then that's when I got the invite to Turks. So I feel like that was something that like really went a long way, and I was so happy that I did that. Yeah, it was cool.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of people would do that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. What was it like then? Because you practiced, but also played against Nadal.
Yeah, that was not fun.
What, the practice or the playing? Because playing. I remember you up 3-0 against Nadal. You came out hot.
There's very few matches in anyone's career where they almost like black out because they're in such a zone. That was one for me. I was up 4-1 on Rafa in Canada and Toronto that year. And I had points like go 5-1. I'll never forget. And it's something that like I go back to because I try to like envision and feel like what I really felt in that moment. And it's so hard to kind of get to that kind of like that feeling that I had. I have it on video, that match and everything. And when you watch it on video, I can go back to kind of those feelings that were going through my mind and going through your body. And it was a little bit like an outer body experience. I'm telling you, like, sounds crazy, but I remember going on the changeover and I was up 4-1 and I looked up at the scoreboard and it said Levine 4, Nadal 1. I was like, that's not right, is it? Like, something doesn't look right. And literally like snap my fingers, boom, lose like set 7-5, 6-2, like game over. I was like, that happened really fast, because I got out of that kind of like that zone that I was in, and next thing you know, it's over. But he is so relentless and just doesn't let you ever breathe. Like it was a mind-opening experience playing against him, and his ball is crazy heavy. Like, you look down at your strings after a point, the strings are all over the place. Like, it's, most guys do that with like a kick serve, and he does it with his forehand. There's not a lot of guys do that with forehand. Jack Sock could do it with his forehand too.
I mean, and what's the mentality like the night before, the morning of, like, you're going up against Nadal? I mean, I know when I was coaching Riley and he was going up, at least you were on a hard court. I mean, when Riley was playing, Riley was playing Nadal at center court semifinals Rome, and it was kind of hard for me, even just a coach, to separate, like, holy crap, like I'm coaching against Nadal. Like, okay, what do we do? So what's it like for you? You're playing against them. I'm on the outside.
So my mom knows the story because I told her, but like after the match because I never wanted to make her feel bad. So like they were in Canada at the time because my mom's Canadian and a lot of family and friends are there. So we were in Toronto, and I never forget like she didn't know like I could hear her because she was in the other part of like the hotel room, like, and she was talking to her friend, and she was like on the phone, and she's like, "I just hope he doesn't get killed." And I can vividly like remember her saying that like on the phone, like I didn't want to make her feel bad because I heard it, and the next day like I competed hard. The first set was close, and obviously the second set was more of a beatdown, but like. I remember after like talking to my family and like we had like a dinner with all my friends and family after, and I was like, cheers to my mom for hoping that I wasn't going to get killed. She was like, what? I was like, I heard you. And she's like, oh my goodness. Like, it was so classic. I heard her like in the other part of the room, like talking to her friend, like, I just hope he doesn't get killed.
Yeah. Well, and there had to have been a small part of like a voice that came in. The same thing. I mean, you have to block it out, but I mean, how do you manage those voices in your head going into something like that?
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, the biggest thing that like, that you have to look at it is, I have zero pressure on me. There's no expectation there. All the expectations are on him. I basically have the green light to swing for the fence. But again, you don't want to go out there and embarrass yourself on a stage like that. And I think that's something that I felt a couple times in my career. The first time I ever played on center court at Wimbledon, like that was something that was a little bit of a deer in the headlights at the beginning when I played Delpo. And Rafa and Delpo were kind of similar because it was on a big stage like that. So you have to manage those expectations, but you also have to stay focused, but also try and enjoy the moment. So like there's so many different things going through your head. You're trying to enjoy the moment, not get killed, compete as hard as you can, and stay focused on what the next task at hand is, right? Like, so there's a lot of different emotions, and it's so hard to kind of stay in the present when you're in those situations. And I think just kind of settling in a little bit to those matches, and thank goodness I had decent starts in both of them, because I feel like if you don't have a decent start, it could be really bad really fast.
Yeah, that's got to be...
It's like a snowball effect, you push the snowball, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time it's monstrous, it's game over and you don't even know what happened, So I feel like, you just got to put your head down and try to kind of, clear the mechanism from one of my favorite movies, For Love of the Game with Kevin Costner. You ever seen that movie?
It's one of my favorite sports movies.
It's an all-time movie. And when he's on the pitching mound and he does that, like, and everything just kind of blurs around you and you're just you and the catcher and the batter, like I would try to do that, but it's very few times that you can actually execute that. And my match with Rafa for those first 5 games, I was clearing the mechanism damn good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard because there's so many new things going around you where those guys have the experience. They've played on big courts. They've played on international TV.
Yeah.
I'm sure their first time like going through it like you did, the same thing, it was really tough.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about that. They think it's just they woke up and they were amazing tennis players winning slams. And I mean, I remember Nadal getting absolutely rocked. I was present by the match he lost to Roddick, the night match where Roddick hit him off a serve.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that Rafa would become the player he did. But everybody goes through that first, and then it's just a matter of how you manage that experience for the next time.
I think something that really helped me too is I had practice on the center court in Canada a lot, but Wimbledon, you don't really get to practice on center court. I think the locker room attendant actually the night before, when he found out that I was playing on center, asked me if I wanted to go out there, and I was like, absolutely. So I went out there with my coach at the time and kind of just walked out there, and I remember there's this old tennis movie called The Break with Vince Van Patten, and like he makes his player like go out there and like start like swimming and doing like a fish in the middle of the court, and like the player gets up and he's like, what are you doing? Why are you making me do this? He's like, you just made a fool out of yourself on center court. It can only get better from here. And I didn't actually do that on the grass, but it would have been kind of a good thing to do. But yeah, no, I remember that scene. So that kind of like stuck with me, like being able to walk out there and see it before I played definitely was extremely helpful.
Yeah. How big of a court did you get to play on when you won Wimbledon Juniors?
We were supposed to play on court 1, and we didn't end up playing on court 1 because it was rain, so they needed to put 2 matches indoors. So they moved us, and we played on court 2. I mean, it wasn't one of them. It was a big court, but it wasn't like center or court one. So I didn't get to play on it.
Yeah, was there a part of you that was like, oh man,
Kinda.
court
I mean,
two?
I would have taken Mike Shabazz and I. We won junior doubles, so like I would take that over getting to play on center or court one for juniors.
Yeah.
Because that look, I think it's so cool. Like, and the junior have their names on the board there forever. Like when I have friends or family that go to Wimbledon, I'm like, hey, go check it out. They're like, wait, what? Like your name's there for juniors? I'm like, yeah, it's there forever. It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, you had some really – was Wimbledon your favorite tournament? Because that's where you ended Safin's career, right? That was it. That was his last match.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely ended his career at Wimbledon. Wimbledon for sure was my favorite Grand Slam by far. I think my game really translated to the grass. Look, I wasn't a big guy. I didn't have huge weapons. I took the ball really early, and I really liked coming forward. So I think my game really translated well on those courts. I was talking to Bob Bryan the other day. I think I qualified for Wimbledon 5 times. And it might be it's got to be like up there for one of the most times qualified. But 2009, well, it's also one of the toughest tournaments to qualify for because the last round of qualifying is best out of 5. So it's pretty it's grueling. You got to win 3 matches in qualifying, the last one being best out of 5. Then you get like a couple days off and then you're right into it. You're in the mix. And I played Safin one year and we played on 18. Which the Isner Marathon court. And that was a cool court. And that was packed. Like it was like standing room only. And what a cool atmosphere. And I was up 2-1 and up 2 breaks. Thank goodness it was 2 breaks because, again, when you're trying to close out someone that you've watched, your childhood and watch him win Grand Slams, like it's a nerve-wracking feeling. And when you don't have – a bot serve like some of those guys, like you got to work for it. And I definitely got broken the first time I served for it. He held, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now it's go time. And I ended up, really coming up clutch with a couple points there and serving it out. And I remember shaking his hand at the net, and I have a picture of it. And I'm literally like looking up to him. It was like a David versus Goliath, because he's a pretty big guy. And I would say that ranks in the top 3 wins of my career ever was taking out Safin at Wimbledon.
What are your other top 2?
I would probably say the other. I mean, sorry, John, Georgia Bulldog taking him out at Newport. Isner was a good one. I'll say Safin was one. Isner was a good one, and then. That's a good question. I'd have to think about the third one. But okay, so Safin's one. We're talking about.
Well,
he's one.
You can change your mind.
Does it count beating Delpo in juniors?
Well, if it does, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding.
I was going to say, if it does, I'm going to count our semifinal win at Orangeville over him in doubles. So I'm going to take that one. So
that's so funny.
I remember watching that Safin match because they broadcasted it.
Yeah.
Like ESPN picked it up. And I remember when you got broken, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I felt the same thing. I said that too, It was like, I'm in deep shit.
You had a sergeant right there at the match, right? He was going nuts.
It's funny. I talk to him all the time. So Sergeant Major Keith Williams, former United States Marines, over 30 years in the service. And he would travel with Scoville Jenkins and I at that time. And he was, life coach, fitness coach, just one of the best human beings you could possibly be around. And I remember him just looking at me and he's like, J-Bo. He called me J-Bo. And he would bark like the Marines would, J-Bo, let's go. Like he's like devil dog mentality, devil dog. Cause we had trained pretty hard. And he's like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And he was like, I was getting like goosebumps when he was like talking to me when I walked over there. It wasn't anything tennis related. It was just like, hey, this is it. This is your moment. Take advantage of it. Close it out, And I remember he went pretty nuts when I won that match. It was pretty awesome to see. I have a picture of him in my apartment now when I won my next round after Safin against Cuevas in 5 of him just like this with both fists like this, just giving a big fist pump like this after the match. You could see the emotion in him just kind of letting loose.
Yeah, you need people like that in that corner because sometimes they're almost so loud and emotional, it actually overpowers your own negative thoughts because they're just louder than your own inner thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And that extreme positivity.
I don't think I got negative. I just needed that little something to kind of get me that extra little push to
Yeah.
get you that motivation. Like, I mean, what other more motivation do you need to serve out a match at Wimbledon against Safin? But when it's like you're thinking in the grand scheme of things and he's talking to you like that, like it was amazing. And he really implemented like, look, one of my favorite athletes of all time is Wayne Gretzky. And, Gretzky's quote is, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, And I wasn't going to go out like trying to just wait for Safin to miss the second time around. Thankfully, I had 2 breaks. I had a little bit of insurance there because the first time I was tentative and I learned from that. The next time I was like, I'm going for it. Like I'm letting loose. And if I'm going to lose his match, I'm not losing it on him, hitting winners on me. I'm going to take the initiative and go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a cool moment.
Yeah.
Just,
yeah.
As you started to wind down your career, injuries really started to, hold you back.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of stops and goes. You had that elbow problem.
Yeah.
Has anything advanced, because you started coaching like pretty soon after, and so you saw a lot of some of the advancements and you've seen them now. Like, what was it like trying to stop, but then you look back now and be like, is there anything you look back, like maybe I could have done this on the fitness side or taken care of this, or, if I had that kind of treatment? It's tough.
It's hard. Well, first and foremost, I always look back and I'm super thankful and blessed to have played the amount of time that I was able to play on tour. I look back at it and I'm always someone that, people never thought I was going to be top 100 in the world. I was, 5'9". Like, yeah, I was athletic and fast, but like I didn't have the weapons that a lot of these guys have now. So I had to, make ends meet and win matches in other ways that, people couldn't do. Right. So I had to find ways, and like Brad Gilbert would say, winning ugly. I mean, sometimes it would be, sometimes it wouldn't be, but I look back on it. I don't have any regrets like that. I think that I could have taken care of my body a little bit more and maybe invested more in having a physio rather than a coach sometimes. I think sometimes on the road that could be more valuable, having someone to work on your body, day in and day out rather than having a coach at some events. I didn't have the luxury of being able to pay for, a team of 4 guys to be with me on the road like some of these guys do now, So I think that's something that I would have done differently. I would have taken a private physio with me more than a coach at times. But look, like I look back on it now and, tennis is the reason why I have the jobs that I have now. Like if it wasn't for tennis, I wouldn't be here talking to you on the Zero podcast. I wouldn't be going to be involved in Intense coming up in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. I wouldn't be doing TV at the Open or in Canada. I wouldn't have the job that I have at this incredible club, Shell Bay, without tennis, without relationships, So when you look back at it that way, like I'm super fortunate and blessed to have played the amount of time that I have, and the friendships that you and I have made through tennis. They're lifelong friendships, Some are rivalries, but some are true friendships, and those are things that you cherish for a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was it like when you transitioned to coaching? 'Cause you went pretty quick into that. Was Madison your first like pro player?
Well, my first job after I stopped playing professional tennis was at a country club in Boca. I'm not going to name the country club because I don't want to say any names, because this was a really eye-opening experience. Yeah. A very good friend of mine hired me to be his like assistant director to kind of get me in the club industry to see if I would like it. And I just played the US Open like 2 months ago. And I come to this job. I knew I wasn't going to be able to play because of my elbow. And some coach didn't show up for like a ladies team warm up. Okay, not like a clinic or practice. And the director at the time goes, "Hey Jess, like, can you go warm them up before the match?" I said, "Yeah, I can warm them up, like no problem." So there's like 6 ladies on the court, and I get from the basket, I put the balls on her racket, the first lady, and she looks at me. No, I kid you not. This is very eye-opening. She looks at me, she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just giving you some balls to start warming up so you guys can start hitting, and then I'll put you through some drills." "No. You feed them. That's what we pay you for." Straight in my eye said that to me. I said, "Holy shit, I can't do this. I just on playing at the US Open. Now I'm here warming up ladies that can't make 10 balls in a row and telling me I need to feed balls? Are you kidding me? So what am I doing here?" I promise you, I walked off the court. I went to my director. I said, "I don't think this is for me." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I told him what happened. He was hysterical laughing. He was like, "Welcome to ladies leagues." I was like, it was insane. It was insane. But a couple months later, Max Eisenbud, who's agent for IMG, called me because he was my agent when I played, and he was like, "Hey, look, like I think you'd be a really good fit to work with Madison Keys, kind of like a Michael Joyce and Maria situation. Like you just fresh off the tour, you could still hit. You and Maddie have a great relationship." I was like, "I'm in." Like I didn't even think twice. So yeah, that was my first ever gig was working with Madison Keys. Yeah, and she was amazing. I mean, it was a lot of fun to work with Maddie because she has some incredible weapons and has such a big game. And it was so cool for me to kind of be part of a little bit of her, game plan going into matches and looking at things on the other side and working with a player that had weapons that I never had. So like you working with Riley, right? We never had to serve like Riley. So you have to put your mind to use and try and find strategies. But it's fun because it's like you have weapons that you never had. So how do you implement those? Yeah.
And then came a little while after that came Jessica Pagula, but that was a different story. I mean, because she was coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you guys started literally at the grind.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the first tournament I ever went to with Jess, I mean, that was a cool kind of project. And look, when we started, she was probably 700 WTA, and she had been as high as around 120, 130, never top 100 before. And I was hitting with her, and I'm like, how has she never been top 100? Like, this is insane. I mean, the amount of power, the cleanliness of her technique and ground strokes, I was like, I don't get it. How has she never been top 100? First tournament we went to, she'll have a good laugh. It was a $15,000 tournament in like Hilton Head, South Carolina. And she lost a second round to a college player. And I was like, what? Like, I don't understand. Like, and then, we really started like, look, we worked really hard and we worked together for a little while. And we brought on Jimmy Arias as well as a very close friend of mine and another Buffalo native that obviously fellow Buffalonians love working together. And, Jimmy's one of the best players to ever come out of Buffalo. So he would help us out sometimes. And Jimmy was really key on having her learn how to win, not just one way. And I think that's really what changed Jess's game was a couple of things. One, fitness level was insane. It got so much better over the years. And two, she learned how to win when her A game wasn't there. Because I had watched her play many matches, and she beat Joe Burr when I was with her one time in Quebec City, but then she would lose to someone that she had no business losing to because she would play the same way over and over again. And once she learned to kind of implement that you can hit a little bit of a slice, you don't have to hit winners on everything, and you can kind of win points by just staying in the point sometime. And the line that Jimmy Arias said best was, you don't always have to be a lion when you're on the court. You can win as a rat sometimes. So that was something that we would always, say to Jess, like, hey, like, be a rat out there. Be a rat out there. You don't have to always be that lion that's killing it out there and killing people. Like, find ways to annoy your opponent. Find ways to get under their skin. And it was a lot of fun. And she's one of the best people out there. Her and her entire family. They are an incredible family. Her husband, Taylor, is an amazing guy who's, traveled with us quite a bit. And we're still great friends to this day. She's a member here at Shell Bay now, and I see them all the time. Taylor actually just texted me before we got on the podcast to catch up a little bit. So it's a relationship that I'm very thankful for too. I think towards the end, I was pretty burnt out of the travel, as you know how that goes. When you travel for yourself so much and then for somebody else, it can get tough no matter how nice you're traveling or you're staying at nice hotels or whatever it is. But it was a lot of fun. When we stopped, she was 43 in the world. So from 700 to 43, I think it was like a pretty big jump now. She's like 3 in the world. I don't know if anyone would have predicted that. But as you know, literally the week after we stopped working together, she goes and wins her first WTA title in DC. So I was like, hats off to you. Like, great job. Can't believe I didn't stay one more week. Like, great.
It's like, David, sorry. Like, you're the coach there, but we know where all the work came from first.
No,
so,
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
I am.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, look, deep down, like, of course, like that hurt a little bit, And, you hear all the announcers like, oh, new coach. I'm like, get the heck out of here. Like, he's been with him for 3 days. What has he done?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. He did it. He did an amazing job, and he's a great guy, and he's doing a great job with Tiafoe now. But like, come on, like, what are you gonna do in less than 5 days before a tournament?
Yeah. Well, it was. I experienced something similar because the first tournament Riley played after we stopped was the one where he beat Djokovic and made the finals. And I'm getting all these messages, and I'm like, I didn't get, because I did get to coach against Djokovic, but it wasn't with Riley.
Yeah.
Nadal as well, but it was both losses. So
Yeah.
But and then I wake up and like I'm just like, I wasn't there. I'm not a coach. and actually I just started saying, I'm like, I think the best thing that happened for him was that he split with me, because look, we won like 5 first rounds in a row, and then boom, final.
Yeah, look, hey, I'm so happy for Jess that she won that tournament. Don't get me wrong. It's just like, it's a little dig, you know, that it just happens the first week after, you know. It's like, shoot, should have done that. I actually texted her after she won, like, hey, like, just want to say congrats, and I was like, should have fired me sooner. It was good fun though. But look, all those are great memories, man. I'm telling you, it was a lot of fun, and now it's very different because I'm not really involved in the competitive side of things, so it's a little different. But it's pressure from other directions at a club like Shelby. It's more pressure of like a service standpoint and making sure everyone's taken care of. You know, the clientele is amazing here, and I've enjoyed my time here in the first 2 years that we've been open. You've been by here, and it's a pretty incredible place.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how that shift in mentality was. I was talking to Noah Rubin recently about, and he was even saying like he's pretty fresh off of like stopping, and so just to like switch the identity too, because you're at this club and look, it's great that you did all this stuff, but frankly, no one gives a shit. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Like, okay, cool, great, awesome, but like, all right, hey, buddy, court's got to be swept. Hey, I got to warm up. Like, let's go. So. But and a lot of people, I at first was that it struggled to shift that mentality to like, hey, this is not about like winning the U.S. Open anymore. I'm in a different environment, but I'm happy in this environment. Like I want to do this stuff, and it's fine that no one cares like about my past. What was it like going for you for that?
I experienced the club industry after Jess and I stopped. My first job was at a small club in Delray. It was a beach club in Delray, and it was an amazing experience. And then from there, I went to a club in Boca that was a little bit bigger, and kind of worked my way up and had, you know, a little bit more experience as a director. And then this opportunity came around, and, you know, it really came around because of Bob Bryan. Bob Bryan, who's become a very close friend of mine, called me up one day, and he's like, hey, they're building this new club in Hallandale Beach. You know, would you be interested? And I was like, I'm always interested in hearing about opportunities. Like, no, but this is like going to be insane. And he was telling me about it. I came and I interviewed, and the process was not like crazy rigorous, but like, I mean, I had to do a phone interview. Then I came, met with the general manager, met with the owners, then did like a roundtable discussion. Like it was different. And for me, like, I don't know about you, but like, the one feeling that I miss the most about playing is getting that little bit of a nervous feeling before you go out on the court, right? And kind of getting like that adrenaline going. And I got it when I was going in for those interviews. I get it when you're on live television and that red light turns on. I get it when, you know, you're coaching another pro player. Like there's different ways of getting that feeling. And that's something that I've learned and learned how to kind of deal with that in other aspects of life, you know? Like you're not going to get that feeling of walking on center court again, right? But I'm going to get that feeling when I'm sitting on a panel in Canada and there's 3 cameras in front of you and you're on live television, and all of a sudden the red light comes on, like it's game time, you know? So there's different ways of kind of getting those feelings, because, you know, that's one feeling that you can't simulate anywhere else, you know? You can get nervous for putting on an event here, or, you know, for a lesson with a VIP client or something, but like it's not the same. So I think, you know, going through that process was really cool for me. And now, you know, having, you know, the clientele here that's absolutely super, they're super grateful, by the way. Like some of them are big tennis fans and they're like, I watched you play at the Open. Like, holy smokes. And then there's some like, wait, you played pro? Like they have no idea. Like, wait, like, how do you know so-and-so? I'm like, oh, I used to play with what? You know, so it's like, it's cool that you get those reactions, but it's just a different kind of expectation of like making sure that the fridges have cold towels and dry towels and Gatorades and fully stocked, and, things are neat and the lines on the grass court are painted and, the courts are rolled. And obviously I'm not doing all that, but it's my job to oversee all of it. So it's a different sort of pressure.
Yeah, because also you're affecting the way they experience the sport, and the better experience they have with it, the more they love the sport, and you love the sport.
Yeah.
And as a coach, what you want more for anybody is to love the sport the way you did.
Yeah,
you know how happy you were.
It's a reflection on me on how the racket club runs here at Shell Bay, right? So the pros that I hire, the maintenance staff that I hire, the pro shop people that are here that I hire, like that ultimately is on me. And if it's running great, then makes me look like a boss, right? And if it's not running well, that falls on me. And it's my job as a leader here now in this department to, hire the right people. I actually just read this book, Good to Great, and they talk about how important it is to get the right people on the bus in the right seats before the bus can go anywhere. And that's something that I think is so important. And, he hits the nail on the head on that one. Like, it's so important to have the right people working for you to make it work as a team and as a team atmosphere, and not feel that you're not working together like that.
Yeah. Just final question here. I mean, so much success, not just on the court, but the players you've coached and the clubs that you've worked at. But we all know it's never a straight line up. Right.
Yeah.
As you look back, what would you say was the most difficult thing you had to overcome to get to where you are?
That's a hard question. I think really for me, the difficult part for me was always hearing people that Jesse can't do it. Jesse's not going to do it. Like, why? Like, he's not going to do it. Why would you do that? Like, why would we give this to Jesse? And I remember, being part of a lot of training camps. And I felt like I was sometimes kind of brushed to the side, but it made me work that much harder. And I think not letting people get to you, it's a key thing in life in general, not just, sports in general, and use that as fuel. And that's something that I think I did an amazing job of. And I give myself a pat on the back because, there were so many times where people were saying that, no, we're not interested. No, we're not interested. And it only made me hungrier. And I think, the one thing that when I look back on my career from juniors through pros is I competed my ass off, point after point after point. I mean, look, we go back to 14 clay courts. It's probably one of my most memorable matches in the final against Donald Young. I don't know if you remember what the score was, but I was down 5-0, 40-15 in the third set. Sorry, Donald. I know this one might hurt you, but we played each other a lot. He won plenty. I won plenty. But in the 14s, he was up 5-0, 40-15 serving, and I came back and won that match. And that was like kind of defining who I am as a player and who I am as a person, with someone that when I believe in something and when I put my mind behind something and when you want something, you don't stop and you continue until you get there. And I think that's something that I would always say to anybody that I'm around, someone that I coach, someone that you mentor, someone that asks for, what's the best advice you've ever been given, I think is obviously, it may sound a little bit corny, but it's to never give up, and don't let anyone tell you can't. Yeah.
We'll stop there. That's perfect.
Are we ready for Atlanta or what?
Let's do it. I'm gonna need your guys.
I'm excited, man. Look, you and I have been friends since we were 13 years old, and now we're living, 15 minutes away from each other, which is crazy. And now we get to work together for the first time. So it's exciting. I'm pumped.
Yeah, me too. I'll lean on your guidance.
My guidance. Sure.
Well, you do have more experience than me in this. So I have been practicing though. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Tune in to Intense in Atlanta. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, I think June 29th that weekend.
Yeah,
so,
I'll be there.
Yeah, man. Listen, thank you for your time.
No,
Super
thanks for
busy,
having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing your stories.
A little chomp at the end.
Yeah, it's funny. By the way, just the last thing that everybody should know is I told Jesse when because I got to Florida State first.
I wasn't going to call you out on this.
Yeah, I told him, I'm like, look, you don't have to come to Florida State. Obviously, I was trying to get you to go there, but I'm like, you just can't go to Florida. You can go anywhere else, just can't go there. And when you called me that day,
You knew.
I know. The tone of voice, you're like, dude, I got to tell. It hurt our friendship for at least 2 weeks. I was just like, F this guy. You know?
I apologize.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah. Well, things worked out, so we're still friends.
You still have a picture of me in Florida State shirt, and I have one of you in a Gator shirt. So that is, I mean, look, I never thought I'd see you in orange and blue, and you never thought you'd see me in those colors either. You know, I don't even want to say what those colors are. They don't even go together.
Come on. All right, man. Well, look,
thanks
thank you for your time.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks,
Have a
man.
good one.